says to circle all the integers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define integer, which means you're going to have to pull on some 7th grade knowledge here. So I want you to select from the following answers what the definition of integer is. So we should have found that an integer is a positive, negative, or zero number that has no decimals or fractions. So we're just going to go through it and we're going to look to see which one applies to that. Negative 14 over 5. Well, negative 14 over 5 has a fraction, so that is not an integer. Negative 2.75. Negative 2.75 has a decimal, so that's not an integer. 164. 164 is our positive number that has no decimals. So there we go. All right. 0. 0 is in our definition, so that's 1. 2.5. My definition says that I can't have any decimals. This has a decimal, so that's not the answer. The square root of 25. Now, when we think about the square root of 25, we have to go, okay, what times what equals 25? And what is the square root of 25? The square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so is 5 an integer? Yes, 5 is an integer because that's a positive number with no decimals. So 5 would be an answer. So the square root of 25 would be an answer. And what about the square root of, what about negative 29? Negative 29 is a negative number with no decimals. So that one also applies. Okay. We're going to create a list of all the perfect square roots with the answer of 1 through 15. Hopefully at this point you're able to do this pretty well. So I want you to give this a shot. Okay, you should have found all of these. Remember that 2 squared is 4, so that's why that 4 is in there. 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, and so on and so forth. All right, so this one says, between which two integers does the square root of 83 belong? Approximate the value of the square root of 83. So what we're going to do is we're going to look up here, and we're going to see which two numbers 83 falls in between. So taking a look, which two numbers does 83 fall in between? It falls in between 81 and 100. Well, 81 is 9. The square root of 81 is 9, and then the square root of 100 is 10. So 83 falls between 9 and 10. It is closer to the 81, so it's going to fall a little closer to 9, right? So since it's falling closer to 9, 83 is almost 81. So I'm going to say that's about 9.1, 9.2-ish, somewhere in between there, okay? This one says, between which two integers would the square root of 68? Oh, goodness. Okay, would the square root of 68 be found? Now, for this one, we're going to look and we're going to say, okay, 68 is in between what two numbers? 64 and 81. Okay. The square root of 64 is 8 because 8 times 8 gives me 64, and then square root of 81 is 9. So I know it's going to be 8 point something because it falls in between 8 and, oh wait, sorry, we're not approximating. All right, it's between 8 and 9. Okay, what is the approximate value of negative square root of 50? Now for these, I did forget to put these right here. All I'm going to look at right now is the square root of, I'm going to look at the 50 part. So we're going to find what two numbers 50 falls in between up here. 50 falls in between 49 and 64. Now, it is asking for the approximate value. Remember, there is a negative in front of it, so we have to keep that negative. And then after that, I just say, okay, which one does it fall closer to, 49 or 64? It falls closer to 49. Now, the square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 64 is 8. So it's going to be negative 7 point something. It is 50 is very, very close to 49. So it's going to be a lot closer to 7. I'm going to say probably about 7.1 because 50 is so close to 49. All right, this one says the length of a bench is represented by the square root of 159 inches. Estimate the length of the bench. So I got to look up here and figure out what 159 falls in between. 159 falls between 144 and 169. Now, the square root of 144 is 12, and the square root of 169 is 13. Now, 159 is kind of almost smack dab in between. It is about 15 away from 144, and it's about 10 away from 169. So it's going to be a little bit closer to 13. So we'll say like 12.6 because it's a little bit closer. This one's 15 away, and then 13 is only 10 away, so it's closer here. All right, this one says, which value is best represented by point N? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to approximate where each of these are to figure out m is in between 4 and 5, so we're going to figure out which one of these is in between 4 and 5. So this one just straight up says the square root of 9. We know that the square root of 9 is 3. Well, this is in between 4 and 5, so that can't be it. Then we have the square root of 28. 28 is going to be in the middle. Before 28 falls 25, and after 28 falls 36. Oh, sorry, that should be 25. Now, we know that the square root of 25 is 5, and we know that the square root of 36 is 6. Well, so 28 falls in between 5 and 6. This is not between 5 and 6, so that's not going to be our answer. Then we have the square root of 20, which is going to go right there. We're going to look up here. The square root of 20 would fall in between. All right, the square root of 20 would fall in between 16 and 25. Well, the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 25 is 5. So the square root of 20 would fall between 4 and 5. Okay, well, that's kind of perfect. That's right there, right? So I'm thinking C is probably going to be my answer, but let's check our last one. We have the square root of 40, which would go in the center, and then 40 would fall in between the square root of 36 and the square root of 49. The square root of 36 is 6, and the square root of 49 is 7, so that means the square root of 40 falls in between 6 and 7. That's not where that is, so that's not the answer, which leaves me with C. All right, and then this one is just our memorization skills. It says to find the square root. We know that the square root of 169 is 13 because 13 times 13 equals 169. We also know that the square root of 49 equals 7 because 7 times 7 equals 49. Then we have 15 squared, which is 15 times 15, which gives us 225. And then we have 8 squared, which is 8 times 8, and that equals 64.